All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to uncover the invisible architecture of influence that's basically shaping our daily decisions. I mean, have you ever wondered why you bought that random product, clicked that link, or, agreed to that favor when you swore you wouldn't? Well, today, we're exploring the subtle psychological forces that govern almost everything we do. Take a second and really think about this. Are your decisions truly your own? Or are you, without even realizing it, following a carefully written, hidden script? Yeah, it's kind of an uncomfortable thought, right? But to understand human behavior, we've got to ask the hard questions. Because here's the wild thing you need to realize. Your mind is being played. It is. It's hard to believe, but literally every single day, modern media, marketing campaigns, and digital platforms are using decades of rigorous psychological research to basically hack our behavior. This is not an accident, folks. It is an incredibly precise science of manipulation. So here's our classified dossier for decoding all this. First, the blueprint of influence. Second, the authority trap. Third, the conformity engine. Then, exploiting cognitive biases. And finally, escaping the manipulation game. All right, part 1, the blueprint of influence. Let's look at the architecture. Now, I want to be clear right up front. This explainer relies strictly on foundational science. No pseudoscience here, no unsupported claims. We're unpacking strategies straight out of the literal manuals to the human mind. I'm talking about heavy hitters like Robert Cialdini's influence in persuasion, Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, Robert Greene's The Laws of Human Nature, The Lucifer Effect, Mistakes Were Made, and Games People Play. These are the groundbreaking books that first really exposed the psychological blueprints used to, steer our choices. And look at how this builds over time. Between 1951 and 1971, a series of classic mid-century psychology experiments essentially mapped out our vulnerabilities. Starting with the Asch conformity experiments, right through the robber's cave, the Bobo doll, the Milgram experiment, and all the way to the Stanford prison experiment in '71. The science consistently proved one thing: human behavior is way more malleable than we'd ever like to admit. Moving on to Section 2, the authority trap, how we're fundamentally wired to obey. So, obedience. It's defined as compliance with commands given by an authority figure. And this was so powerfully demonstrated in that 1963 Milgram experiment. Think about this. Ordinary people administered what they truly believed were lethal electric shocks. I mean, they were literally hearing fake screams of agony from the other room, simply because the guy in a white lab coat told them, "You must continue." It's wild, but it proved that the mere presence of authority can completely override our own personal moral compass. And that brings us to this quote from The Lucifer Effect, which explores how good people can be induced, seduced, and initiated into acting in evil ways. Philip Zimbardo, who actually ran that infamous 1971 Stanford prison experiment, showed us how situational forces and imposed roles can just entirely rewrite human behavior. When perfectly ordinary college students were assigned roles as guards and prisoners, the environment itself seduced them into these extreme behaviors. So authority isn't always just a person standing there giving orders. Sometimes it's the actual structure of the situation itself. Okay, Section 3, the conformity engine. Let's look at the incredible power of the crowd. Social proof. It's this psychological phenomenon where we basically assume the actions of others reflect the correct behavior for a given situation. We assume the crowd is right. And it is crazy to think about, but in the 1951 Asch conformity experiments, people would literally deny the evidence of their own two eyes. They'd agree with a room full of total strangers that a clearly shorter line was actually longer, just so they wouldn't rock the boat. It turns out we are fundamentally terrified of standing out from the pack. So how does this become a modern script? Well, media and marketers weaponize this desire to fit in using a highly calculated 4-step funnel. Step 1. Persuasion sets the stage before they even make a request. Step 2, emotional framing triggers this fast gut reaction. Step 3, social proof piles on the peer pressure, making you feel like literally everyone else is already doing it. And finally, step 4, scarcity, that feeling that time or supply is running out, which totally forces you into immediate action. Moving into Section 4, exploiting cognitive biases, how they are hacking your brain. Daniel Kahneman's research really pulls back the curtain here, showing we have two modes of thought. First, there's System 1. It's automatic, it's emotional, it's incredibly fast, and it is highly prone to cognitive biases and framing. That speed makes it super easy to hack your brain and force an impulse. But then, we have System 2. System 2 is deliberate, it's logical, it handles critical analysis, and frankly, it takes real effort to use. The whole goal of manipulators is to keep you totally trapped in that fast, emotional System 1 so you never slow down enough to wake up and use your logical System 2. Mistakes were made, but not by me. You know, this quote perfectly captures our deep-seated need to justify our own cognitive biases. When we actually fall for manipulation, cognitive dissonance kicks in hard. Rather than just admitting, hey, I got played, our brain literally invents a rationalization to justify the error. We do it just to protect our own egos. Actually, I want to ask you directly, how quickly do you justify your own mistakes? Think about a time you fell for a scarcity tactic. Like, one of those limited time offer countdown clocks ticking away on a website. Or maybe a reciprocity trick where someone handed you a small freebie just so you'd buy something way more expensive. Did you admit you got played? Or did you immediately defend your choice, telling yourself, no, I actually really needed this item? We all do it, for sure. All right, our final section, number 5, escaping the manipulation game, your intellectual self-defense. So what's the solution? The ultimate antidote to these mind games is reliable science. To beat manipulation tactics, things like pseudoscience, emotional framing, unsupported claims, you have absolutely got to anchor your beliefs in rigorous, peer-reviewed research. When you're evaluating a claim, look to trustworthy organizations, the American Psychological Association, the NIH, the National Library of Medicine. Data is, without a doubt, your absolute best shield against emotional manipulation. And you can train this intellectual defense every single day, expanding your critical thinking through science-backed platforms. I'm talking about channels like Psych2Go, Veritasium, Big Think, TED. It's just an incredible way to keep engaging that deliberate, analytical System 2 thinking we talked about. They really teach you how to analyze the world logically rather than just reacting on pure emotion. So there you have it. We've laid out the mechanics, you've seen the blueprint of influence, the traps of authority and social proof, and exactly how your fast-thinking brain is being routinely exploited. So now that you see the invisible strings attached to your daily decisions, what will you do to cut them? It is officially time to step out of the matrix of influence, engage your critical mind, and reclaim your choices. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep questioning everything.